I decided in I decided instead that we kind of step back and we um, really just look at all the stuff that we learned in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So what I did yesterday is that I built a project, a little small project for us to do today, and I have the code hosted on GitHub, which I've shared in the Discord. I also will share it in the chat right now. Um, I'm sorry, I have a bunch of stuff to go through. There we go. And also another thing, I said this a lot last semester. I've said it at the beginning of this semester. Um, you guys should have a GitHub. Uh, it's where you host your projects. You can also utilize it in other um, technologies as well. You can do constant uh, constant iterations with whatever. It's important to have. It's important for recruiters to see that you're pushing up work on a regular basis. Um, I will actually share my screen. I'll show you my GitHub, and the most important part about a GitHub account. Um, yeah. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Which screen is it? I have two. I'm sorry.
It's like white.
So it says Joshua Moore Encoding Club on the side.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. Chat. There we go. Okay. So this is the repository that we're going to be working with today. But most importantly, our homepage. These green dots uh, signify how many pushes to the repository I've made on that day. Obviously, by this key, we can tell that the opacity or the darkness of the green dot signifies um, the amount in that contribution. Um, and it doesn't matter how much you push up in a day. It matters that you're pushing up on a semi-frequent basis. I don't really push up to my GitHub as much as I should. A lot of my code is actually private. I have it hosted on another GitLab account. Um, but this is my private GitHub, and I try to at least, put up a new project once a month at least. As soon as I'm done with my NCAA project, I probably will host it here as well, and you guys can check it out. It's for analyzing teams and seeing what point spreads are going to occur within a game. Last night, visiting St. Mary's and St. Mary's played, and I predicted it was a -14 game, and it was -13. So it's definitely important to work on projects um, and post them to our GitHub. So I put a link into our chat. Let me see if I can find it real quick. There we go. And I'm going to create a clone of this. All right, just so that I can host it, just so I can host it on my live server. You don't necessarily have to do this. Um, I'm doing this so that we can see what the final product is going to be. Um, cool. So if you have GitHub set up on your computer, all you have to do is say git clone and then place the URL for the repository you want to clone, and it will make a copy of that repository to your machine. As we can see, um, I named it coding example 392022. So I'm going to open this up with VS Code, and I have this example pulled up right now. So you don't have to do any of this stuff. I'm just pulling down this code so that we're going to see what we built today. I'm just going to go live. And we have like a very simple website. It does resize. And what we're really going to focus on today, though, is number one, creating this nav bar, this fixed nav bar. Number two, creating a flex container, which both of these are. We see that we have two contain. Well, each container contains another two containers inside of them, which are evenly or spaced accordingly to each side. And that's all with the use of Flexbox, right? So we're going to build this project today. I'm going to kill this server, and I'm going to open up a new project. A fresh project. So I'm just going to go back into here. I have a place where I keep all my projects for the coding club. Specifically, wherever you want to create a project, that's fine. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to say what's today's date? No, today is the 9th. Coding club food website. Cool. And I'm going to open this up with code. All right, this will open up VS Code for me, and now I have a blank template. All right, I have two VS Codes open. I'm going to open up the other one to the side just in case I need a reference. I want to just do this. Perfect. Awesome. All right. So first and foremost, does anybody know what our first step would be? Will this recording be recorded and be sent to us? Post any in particular? Zachary, we are still working on that. It is being recorded. We have to figure out some technical issues with it being distributed. We will get back to you on that. I'm gonna try to figure out a maybe a workaround where I can record with OBS. Yes, Teddy, first new file. All right. So what type of file would we need to create in order to write our HTML? Oh, awesome. All right. So like before, all I do to create a new file, I come up here to the top left, and there are 4 buttons here. One to refresh. I'm not really sure. There's collapses, I suppose. One to create a new folder, and one to create a new file. So I create the new file, and I call it index.html. The reason we call it index.html, it usually signifies the root of our HTML project. Now, we've gone over the HTML layout, a syntax layout, so I'm not going to really bother going over it. I'm assuming that most of us have the bootstrap, not the bootstrap, the boilerplate snippet plugin installed. If not, all you have to do is come down to extensions. It's these 4 boxes right here, and you type in HTML, and you install this one right here, HTML boilerplate. You can also install this HTML snippets plugin. It makes your life a whole lot easier when you're writing HTML. There's also a CSS support, also great. Um, Also a great plugin to have when you're writing HTML and CSS. All these things that help you with autocomplete, so you don't have to remember, you know, or you don't have to type out whole sentences or syntax. All right, and we're gonna see how that works right now. So I'm going to write in my HTML file. I'm just gonna write HTML. I'm gonna have 4 pop-ups. Right, we're gonna come down to this last one. It says HTML5 dash boilerplate. I'm sorry if I'm going fast. Um, you can create an app.js file. We're not going to be doing JS today, just because we're not at that point. But if you want to add JavaScript to your file, yes, you would name it app.js. That signifies the root of a JavaScript file. Cool. Now, after I clicked on the HTML5 dash boilerplate, I have this beautiful HTML5 boilerplate. All right. So like Zachary said, I'm also going to create a style or styles, whatever you want, styles.css, and it's going to create a blank CSS file for me. I don't need to create any boilerplate for CSS. It's pretty straightforward, and we're going to get into it a little bit later. All right, but first and foremost, I have to import my styles.css into my HTML. This way my HTML knows that I have a CSS file that goes hand in hand with the HTML file that is being read. All right. And the place that we import our CSS is in the link tag within the head. All right. This way it's read first and the styles are applied below. All right. Is everybody up to the spot that I'm up to right now? I have to go kind of fast because we have a lot to cover today. Okay. Now, when we deal with HTML, we kind of think of like hierarchical order. Jeez, that was a tongue twister. From top down, right? And when building, I'm gonna host my file again. When building this file, when just looking at this file, what would you say is the first thing we have to build if we're going from top down?
The bar at the top.
Awesome. So we want to build a nav bar first. And what is the first step on creating any type of, I guess, contained space or shape within HTML? A div. Awesome, Sabrina. All right. Now, this div is not like other divs, right? We're not going to be able to reuse this very often. There's only one nav bar. So should this have a special selector so that CSS knows that the styles placed on this div are different? Like a class or an ID? Okay, so we're going to use a class or an ID or an ID. I'm going to use an ID. And the way that we can use the shorthand syntax with our HTML snippets by saying hashtag nav, right? And then press tab. Now I have a div with an ID of nav. All right. Now I want to set up some CSS so that I can see, my progress, or it's easier to see my progress as I move forward, right? So I'm gonna go into my CSS file, and does anybody remember like the first thing we have to do to if I wanted to put some styles on a ID, how would I select an ID within CSS?
Wouldn't you have to put the period and then the ID name?
Daniel, that was super close. Awesome, man. IDs use hashtags. Classes use periods. It's a little bit tricky. So if it was a class of nav, I do dot nav. But since we have an ID, I'm gonna do a hashtag of nav, and then do an open curly bracket and a closed curly bracket. All right. Now all of the space within these two curly brackets will contain our styles. Before we do that, I want to take a look at what we have right now. It's going to be a blank screen, but um, if we go click inspect element, right, we can notice if we go over the body element, which is this little tab right here, we notice that there's like this space, this unjustified space. If we come over here to the right, we can see there's a margin of 8. So I don't want margin. I want my website to be wall to wall. If that makes any sense, like side to side. So I'm gonna write some quick CSS to take away my margin on the body. All right. So does anyone know how I can select um, like a generalized tag? Like if I want to select all of the H1s or all of the ULs, how would I do that? Like say I want to write a style just for the body. How would I do that?
For that one, I think you would just put the name itself.
Awesome, Daniel. Doing great. Yes. So we just state whatever tag we want to write a style for, and then do an open and close curly bracket. All right. First, all I want to do, I just want to say margin 0, which will take away all the margin. And you know what? I want to put a background color. I don't know if I want to do that right now, but I will just I'm gonna put one down anyways. Let's see how it looks. Maybe I'll take it away. All right, and I chose this color. Um, I'm not creative. I'm not super design oriented. Um, so I use a lot of tools. Um, and I use this app called Color Hunt, which gives me really great color palettes, and it's really helpful when designing. It's hard to be both. Um, it's hard to be both, a programmer and a design person, especially when you're doing full stack. Sometimes you have so much on your mind that you can't be, you know. Usually you would have designers working with you as well, but sometimes you don't. So it's good to have little, tools like this to help you along the way. So feel free to pick any one of the colors on that website or whatever you want. Actually, you can write you can even write, you know pretty much primary colors, but you can just write in uh, the string version of that primary color. No, I'm sorry, did not want to do that. So I'm gonna return back to the color that I chose and keep moving forward. All right, so now if I come look at the body, I have this beautiful purple body. Close that. Cool. Next. So I want to give my nav some space, right? I want to give it some height. I want to give it some width. I wanted to take up some space on the website itself. what style would I use to do any of that stuff? I would use height and width, right? So um, height and width take a bunch of different types of measurements. Um, but the ones I like to use are for height. I like to use view horts or view heights, depending where you are. It's VH. It's the prefix, um, and that stands for 10% of the total view of the browser. All right. So when I say 10 VH, I'm saying 1/10 of the whole, or 10 out of 100 of the whole view height. Right. Now, if I said 100 view heights, that'd be 100%. 200, obviously 200%. Um, it's a nav bar, so I'm gonna try to keep it pretty small. So I'm gonna put it at 10 view horts, and then I'm gonna have a width, and I want this to be the whole width of the screen. So technically I can do 100 view widths, but I'm just gonna do 100%. All right. Awesome. All right. Let's just give this a background color of a periwinkle, so we can see if we're in the right place or not. And the thing about CSS and HTML, it takes playing around with a little bit. It's hard to remember a bunch of different styles, and you won't get it right on the. I mean, you probably could get it right on the first time. Like, I'm pretty sure. Yep, it's right. But it's okay to play around with what you have and just to mess around with colors and position. Is not gonna be perfect on the first try. Okay. Next. Um, next, I want to put in the links within our nav bar. All right. I'm pulling up the. So we can see that the nav bar over here has 3 links, and they're pinned to the right in a row. All right. Um, so I'm gonna go back to my HTML, and I'm gonna create an unordered list. So the tag for that is UL. I'm gonna press tab, and then I'm gonna put 3 list items inside of that that list. So I'm gonna put now technically, if I want to do this correctly, I would put an A tag inside of this list item. This A tag allows me to navigate to other pages. It's a link, essentially. So I'm gonna do it correctly. I'm gonna put an A tag inside of my list item, and inside of that A tag, I'm gonna put the text for the A tag, which will be home. All right, I'm just gonna copy and paste this list item, and I'm gonna change the text what's inside of it to contact and to I don't know, order. Right. So now I should have 3 list items with A tags inside of them displayed, and I do. It is not pretty, but there they are. And we're going to apply some styles to them to make them a little more to our liking. All right. So what when you you know what, Mario, I don't know. I guess when if you're maybe if you're using JavaScript to put them into an array, but it doesn't really matter because you can organize them in any type of way with JavaScript. Um, so there's really no difference. I mean, there probably is some minute difference, but you can use a UL or OL. It's really it's graphic syntax, so you can really play around with it any type you like. Like if I change this to OL, I'm pretty sure there'll be no difference whatsoever. Now they have numbers instead of dots. That's the difference. um, yeah, like I said, I really don't use OL. I don't really use the dots on ULs either. Um, we're gonna take everything away right now, so it doesn't really matter if it's an OL or a UL. We're gonna take away the text decoration and some of the styles that come preloaded into a UL and ILs. All right, so I want to I want to access um, I want to access the UL within this nav uh, ID. Does anyone have a clue on the way that we can do that? If I want to access um, the UL inside of here. In CSS, I'm sorry.
Once you create a separate hashtag nav and then put UL
Like
next
this?
to it. Yeah.
So we would do this. And what this signifies is that all the ULs within this nav will get this specific style. It's a lot better than making these generalized styles like body. We can say there's only one body within the HTML file, but there might be multiple ULs. So I like to specify that all the ULs within this nav have this style. Very good, Daniel. I appreciate that. All right. So I want to turn this horizontal list into a vertical list. Does anybody have a clue on the way that we can do that? I will give you clues. Okay. We're gonna use a Flexbox container, and we're gonna do that by giving this UL a display of flex and a flex direction of row. All right. So let's type that in and see what happens. And we can navigate from there. And awesome. We now have this ugly row. Very, very pretty. We have to deal with a lot of stuff within this. Okay. But we're going to do it step by step. So first, I want to take off all these dots. These dots are really ugly. Not really my style. I'm going to have to, figure something out for that. So those dots are on list items. And I think it's really important that we learn how to use this inspect element tool. So if we right click on anything, you click inspect, it'll take you to the code within our dev tools within Google Chrome. I think I know for a fact Mozilla Fox Finder also has this. Safari also has this. I haven't used it as much though. So we can see that every list item has this little marker right here, which is, to go to the first one, is this little dot. All right. We can hover over every list item and see them individually. And we also can see the styles associated with the list item on the right hand side, and the padding and the margin and the border associated with each item. All right. So I now know that these list items have these dots associated with them. So I need to find a way to get rid of them. So I can say hashtag nav ul li, right? And I can say list style none. Cool. No, want it. Cool. Now all the dots are gone, and I can start moving forward to the next problem that I have, which is this this ugly like link style, you know. So I'm gonna right click on this again. It's gonna bring me down to A, right? And it says text decoration underline. And if we come into here, like this, and I say text decoration none, you see that the underline style has gone away. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my CSS now, and I'm going to find the A within this project, this in this nav bar. So I'm going to go nav ul li a, and a better way to probably have done this would to be put maybe a class or an ID on, or as a class on these a tags or on these links. This way we can circumvent a lot of this syntax. So now I have access to all the A's, and I want to say text decoration none. All right, now where does that leave us? With these still kind of ugly looking links with no space or no real color, but they don't have the dots and they don't have the underline, so we're kind of moving forward. Okay, so next I want to give this a little more style, right? I'm going to say I want to take the A tags and make them bold. So I'm going to say font size, font weight, actually, I'm sorry. Font weight, and I'm going to say 900, right? And I want to say color. And I have a nice color already picked out for this. Cool. And we'll see what it looks like. Awesome. So now, at least it looks like it's coming together. But we still need to maybe separate these things a little bit. And I'm going to do that with some flex styles, some Flexbox styles. All right. So my UL is a container, and I want to give my container some space. All right. So I'm going to give it a width of 30 view widths. And I'm also going to justify contents space between, which will space around my my content, right? I also will say align items center, which will center my items top to bottom. All right. So awesome. So now I have them spaced around, and I think I want to move. I want to create a flex container within inside this nav so that I can center and justify the UL within the nav compartment. All right. So I'm gonna go back to nav. I'm gonna create a display flex, a flex direction of row. I'm gonna justify contents, which is when you have a row is left and right. I want to justify content flex end, which is the end of my container, and then align items center. I know that's a lot of stuff, but we're gonna go over what they did. So now we have a flex container, right? This whole container, this nav, the flex container, excuse me. I justified my content flex end, which is the end of the container right here. And then I aligned items center, which is the center over here. All right. This looks a little bit wonky though. It's touch and I don't really like that. So I'm gonna add a little bit of padding to my UL. All right. To give me a little space. Padding is internal space. Margin is external space. All right. You don't have to remember that, but you can mess around with the inspector tool, and you can find the padding that works with you. So now we see that I have a little bit of space from the right hand side of the container, and if I go into my inspector element, I'm going to just go to this UL, and we see that I have this margin, this orange margin around the whole entire UL, but then I have a green space, which is padding, which gives me space from the right of this container. Cool. So now I have these beautiful buttons, and I'm now going to make the landing page below. All right. Is everybody on my wavelength? Have I gone a little bit too far and too fast? Now would be a great time to ask any questions. No problem, Teddy. The best way, I can show you my screen right now, but the best way would be to click the link for the GitHub. I will repaste it. And all the code will be there, and you can download it to your computer if you like. And I'm just going to open it up on my screen. So we can see my GitHub account, and we'll see a style.css. And we have all the CSS that I wrote for this project. All right, it's not a lot, and most of it is consistent to the point that we're at right now. All right. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 styles out currently. So we have styles on body, which we're taking off the margin, and we're putting a background color. We are putting styles on this ID of nav to make it a view 10 view heights and width of 100%. We're also putting a background color on that container of this periwinkle color. We also did a display flex and a flex direction of row. That gives us the ability to center and put this text to the right hand side. So when we do a flex container of row, we're doing left to right and not up to down. And we justify content flex end, we're placing the content to the end, and we're doing align items center, which centers our items. All right, so within that nav div, we have a UL, which has a bunch of list items, which are links. We have a display flex, a flex direction of row, a width of 30 view widths, which gives it space from each other. Then we did justify content space between, which spaces the content of the container evenly between each other. And then we align items center to center the items within the div or in the UL. Finally, we did a padding right to give us space from the end of the nav And then we have some other minor CSS details, which just taking off the list style on the list items and taking off the underline within the A tags, and then fonts and colors. Okay. Next, I need a container. I need a container for us to land on, right? Most commonly known in like the business-ish world as a landing page, right? So I need to create a div. I'm gonna give it a let me give another ID of landing, right? So I now have a div with the ID of landing. Now I'm going to go straight away to styling this, just because we are a little short on time, and I really want to get at least through this landing page before moving on to the final page. So I'm going to run to the styles.css, and I'm going to say ID of landing. And I'm going to give it some really quick styles. So first, I'm going to give it a width of 100. I'm going to give it a height of 90 viewports. All right. I figured out this 90 viewports because I already have 10 viewports being taken up by this nav bar, right? So if we come back into styles, I can give this a background color so we can see what we're working with currently. I'm gonna make it white or whatever color this is, Atlas blue. And now we can see where our div is. It's all this space right here. Okay. Okay. I want to make this landing page an image. I want to make the background an image instead. And I will provide the image to you right now. And all you need to do is all you need to do is take the image and place it inside of the directory where you're working. This one right here. There we go. And then you might need to refresh your no, appear automatically. But if it doesn't show up after you place it in the directory that you're working in, all you need to do is press refresh Explorer, right? And this will bring up the newly added image in that's inside of your directory. All right. So I'm gonna click it and see what we have. Cool. We have this cool food image that I stole off Texels.com. If you need free images, I think they're available for commercial use also. Hit up Pexels.com, PEXELS.com. Yeah. Royalty free images. Always easy to use royalty free images when you're building your mock-ups and prototypes. Okay. So now I have this image and I want to make it the background of my div. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to say in the landing styles, I'm going to say first of all, I don't want to move forward. Does everybody have the image within inside of their directory that they're working in? Yep. Awesome, dude. Nice. Cool. So we're gonna go inside of our styles, inside of our landing style, and we're gonna say background image, right? We're gonna say URL. Now, hypothetically, this could be a URL. I just like putting it inside my directory because it's a little bit better for performance wise. And I'm just gonna say image -1 dot JPEG, right? And this will pull up a version of our picture, but it should be a little bit stretched out. You know, it shouldn't be perfectly aligned with the size of our style. It just makes sense. The two image resolutions are not the image resolution and the screen resolution are two different sizes, so we're gonna have to readjust the background size to cover. So background size, background size, just saw it. Background size, and we're just gonna say cover. It's gonna fit the size of our image to the size of our div. Now we have the total picture being shown, and we can work with this a little bit better. Okay. Okay. Next, we're gonna want to create a column inside of this div. All right. So I'm gonna say I want to call this click through, right? Because that's kind of the term that we use in marketing when you're taking a person, clicking on your ad from Google and then clicking through to becoming a client. All right. You might not really have to use these words as developers or designers, but you might hear them if you're a UX designer working with marketing teams worried about conversion of their websites. All right, and they're just good terms to know overall as well. So when we have websites hosted on Google, right? Bootcamp, right? We want our customers to be able to click through automatically without losing the customer. So if they have to search around too much to find out how to convert them to a customer, then they're probably just going to press that back button, and it's going to increase something called our bounce rate, right? And the higher the bounce rate, the less likely we are to get higher ranked on Google's index. All right, so we want to make sure that any customer that comes to our website will convert to a paying customer. All right, so we're going to create a click-through class to create a button container for our customers to click through to. So I'm just going to put some, generic text here. Eat well. I don't know. And then I'll put it like H3 below because they're not the same level of importance. If you're doing design, you know that different texts have different levels of importance, and we want one to be a tagline, we want one to be a headline. So the tagline will be I don't know, chef inspired food something or other, I don't know. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to put a button with some text. And I'm going to say, learn more. All right. So now if I look back at my HTML, I should have a nice mess. Perfect. Everything is on the left-hand side because we haven't declared any type of styles to position this text or the text around it. Cool. So I want to go to landing in my styles. And I want to make this a Flux container, right? So I'm gonna say display flex direction row, and then I'm also gonna put some styles for the click through, right? I want this to be the full height of the space provided, so 100%. I want to give it the width of 40 view widths. Let's see. So if we emit the height, it might get the initial height that's given. Yep. It's given the initial height. But I want to specify because I'm going to justify the content center, and I need the div to be 100% of this height. All right, so I don't want to take any chances with the style not being defined, so I set them anyways. I'm gonna say display flex direction column, which states that we want to go up and down and left and right. That's a totally fine question, Gabe. If you got to mess around with CSS sometimes, to find out what works. It just sometimes when you're working with multiple screen sizes, you don't want to leave it up to chance. So I'm gonna state that this is a flex container, and the flex direction is column, which means I can organize everything from top to bottom, not left to right. All right. So I can say justify content center and align items center. And I guess it wouldn't really matter if we were using a row or a column, if the center and the width was still 40, but I just want to make sure that if we add more items, they come in horizontally and not width-wise. Okay. And finally, I'm just gonna put a background color to give us a little separation from the rest of the picture. And we'll see what it looks like. Cool. That's not really the color I would want to use. It blends in a little bit too much. Let's use this pink. Cool. All right. We only have a couple more minutes left. I'm gonna try to just. I'll let you guys pick actually. Would you like to create another container like this container, or would you like to style this text and this button? Okay, so we're gonna style up this button and this text, right? So I didn't give my H1, my H3, or my button any particular class or ID, which I should, but I didn't. And I'm going to access them like we accessed the UL, the LI, and the A tag up here. All right, so I'm gonna say I have a class of click-through. I have an H1 inside my click-through, and I want to give it a style of font size, 100 pixels, color I'm gonna choose my dark purple. And I'm gonna see where that leaves me for right now. Okay, I also have a H3 in there as well, right? I want to also say click through, say H3, say font size. It's gonna be a smaller font size because it's not the same level of importance. If it was, we use an H1, so I'm just gonna use this 50 pixels, and then I'm gonna give a color of this lighter purple. Cool. Let's see what we have so far. Cool. There's a lot of space here though, and we'll see what's going on there. Okay, so they have a bunch of margin. See all this orange space that's margin within our text? If we come here, we can actually see that it has 50 pixels of margin, and we can just, add some style to our H1 and our H3 to say margin 0. I'm just going to copy and paste that and put that on the H3 as well. Cool. That looks a little bit better, but this button is looking a little bit hokey, and I want to definitely make it a little cooler if we have the possibility to. All right, so I'm gonna close this. I'll minimize it, and I'm just gonna access the button tag within our click-through container. All right. I'm gonna give this a larger width because I don't like the way it looks. So I'm gonna say 80% of the inherited width, which gives us 80% of the space that we're given within this div. I like that a little bit better. I'm also going to say border none because I don't like the border that's on that button currently. All right, so it gives us a little bit more of a cleaner look and less of like the 1990s website look. So one of the most important things when styling buttons is the border radius. That will take our appearance of this boxy, ugly button to a little more rounder, cooler, more modern look. So if I put a radius of 10, I kind of have this nice circular button. I don't really like it that much. I'm gonna see if I bring it down to a 5. Sorry about that. Cool. I kind of like this. It's a little more modern, not too circularly, if that's a term I can use. I want to give it a color, something that's going to pop. So I'm going to give this purple color. Oh, wait, no. I need a background color. Background color of purple. And then I want to style the color of the text with inside of the button. So I'm gonna use color for that. Now I have this purple button with this text saying learn more inside. It's kind of skinny though for my liking. So I'm going to give it a padding top. And I actually have a bug right now. Can anybody tell me what my bug is? Why this is showing up white?
You forgot to put the semicolon after white.
Very good, Daniel. Daniel's killing it today. All right. So I add some padding to the top, and you know what? Actually, I want to add padding to the top and the bottom. That makes sense. So I'm gonna use kind of a special way of styling padding and margin. They all take 4 values in total. They take I think it's left, right, left, top, right, down. Like west, north, east, south. If that makes any sense. So if you put in 0, 10 pixels, this is stating this is the same thing of doing this. So I'm gonna write it long ways first, and then we'll take it short ways. So left and right are 0, top and bottom are 10. All right. But I don't need to write that twice, because when I only have two values, it just duplicates it for the next two. So here we go. Did I drop? Oh, I might mix it up. It might be this way instead. There we go. Yeah, so my bad. It was wrong. It was top, north, east, west, south, west. Sorry. I never eat soggy watermelons. So it goes top, right, bottom, left. All right. But when you only put 2, it duplicates the values for top and bottom and left and right. So now I have this nicely padded button, and let's see if we can add a little bit more to this. So I want to know, I want to give some feedback, some user feedback to my user when they're clicking over they're hovering over my my button. So I'm gonna increase the padding. This might look a little crazy. I'm gonna try to keep it very tame to 13 pixels and 0 to see, so that my user knows that it's hovering over this button. This can be placed on any CSS selector. So what this states is that in this pseudo class, which is hover, these styles get applied. So I can do the same thing with, let's take this. I'm gonna bring it down here, and I'm gonna give this a hover. And I'm gonna take the color, and I'm just going to make it black, just so that we have a visual representation of what's going on. We see when I hover over my buttons now, they all turn black. These are really helpful animation tools that are placed in the CSS. Usually you would have to do animation within JavaScript, but this is a little way to circumvent all of that mess. Hopefully, today lesson was kind of helpful to everybody. I will be able to answer questions for a couple more minutes. I don't think we'll be able to move on to the next container. It's basically exactly the same as this container here. Like I said, the code is inside the GitHub, which I will place inside the chat right now. And if you have any questions, you can hit me up on Discord if you don't want to ask them right now. But I am free to answer questions for the next couple minutes. I have to run out. I have the beta of my apps being released this weekend or next Monday, and I have to prepare a presentation. I'm sorry about the short notice. Are there any questions on style, on HTML?